Hello friends, and welcome back. I believe we're on episode 5 now, and a brief recap of the past few episodes. We started we put in our grays, we put in our whites to do our highlights and stuff like that. So let's jump right into it. Now, I know I talked a little bit before on the last episode about different whites and all that stuff. So a white that I really want to talk to you about is a white that's already mixed up. It's called a cremenza white, which I'm probably brutally, horribly mispronouncing that name, but it is flake white and zinc white. They basically take it and they mix it together for you already in a tube. And let me see if I can get the camera to focus in on that. Maybe not, but there we go. Anyway, it's cremenza white. It's a beautiful white, and I think we're going to paint with it some today, and as well as some other whites and all that stuff. But yeah, we're going to load this bottom up with whites and all that. So hopefully we'll get that done today. So you know what? Let's jump right into using this white here. So, and as always, please, if you would, hit that subscribe button so you can get notifications of the next videos that are coming up in the series and all that, and everything like that. So please hit that subscribe button, and of course, as always, if you have any questions or whatever, ask them in the comments below, and I will be more than happy to answer any question you have. Okay, so I'm starting off by dipping my brush in the linseed oil, and then we're just going to load up our brush here. So let's try to figure out where we want to go with our movements and all that stuff. So we know we want it, the big movement start on this side. We want it to come around and basically swirl upward. So I think in here we're going to have a lot of motions, and I kind of like this darker area here, so we really want to make this go back. We want to pop it out around it, so we're just going to start by adding our colors and build up on top of that. Now remember, we talked about in the last episodes where you just want to basically start there and just kind of outline where you want to go, and then you want to gently pull back, and you'll let the paint kind of find its own happy little way to go. And so if you notice, the real cool thing about this white, it's kind of, when you add in very heavy amounts of it, it becomes opaque, but when you thin it out and pull it out, it'll become transparent. So that's why it's kind of a neat color. And so yes, so we're going to add a little more linseed oil. So now I'm dipping my brush directly into the linseed oil. You can kind of see how I really load that brush up with linseed oil. And then we're just going to simply back brush it, and you'll see how that white almost just disappears and adds so much depth and texture in there. And we want to follow our lines up with it, and then you can kind of see what it is. So we're going to take our bigger brush here, and then we're just going to kind of just fade it all in together. You kind of see how where it almost disappears mixed in with those other colors, and it just simply adds a little bit of texture in there with that painting and all that. And yes, I will, if I ever change colors and whatever, I'll leave a link in the in the comments below to tell you guys what colors we're changing up and all that stuff. And so yeah, we'll just continue on with our whites down here. And like right here, I think I'm going to use that shorter brush stroke. I'm going to come in and go right underneath that original line here. let's bring that in a little more there. And so yeah, this white's really quite fun to paint with. And you know, if you want to add more white, you most certainly can. You know, you just need to be careful, because before you know it, you'll fall in love with a color and your whole painting is going to end up that color if you're not careful. So why don't we go back with some of that pewter that we put on our painting before, and let's go back with our pewter. We're going to add in some darkness right in here to really bring out that white. So let's really bring out that pewter. Now we don't want to use a lot of it, but we're just barely going to add in some around that white that we put in there. And if you notice, I'm kind of holding the brush at an angle, and I'm still using that short brush stroke, but I'm kind of going up with it, because that's kind of want to get it in there. I'm going to wipe off the excess paint off of my brush onto my rag. So I've got like almost a dry brush with not really much paint on it. Then I'm going to go back and we're going to use that to kind of blend everything in. Just like that right there. Because we also now, if you notice, we've got these harsh lines here that we kind of want to go away. So we're just going to take it and just gently brush them away. Just going to brush everything away. We're going to kind of mix it in with our white on our canvas there. So we kind of brushed everything away. We added in, now we have a little bit of depth and everything there. And so now you kind of notice how we've got like these 3 dots or 4 dots we kind of are left with here. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, I'm not quite liking that so much. So I'll tell you what, let's go back with that lovely white that we have. You know what we're going to do? Go load up our brush. Tell you what, about right here, we're just going to dab some on. And then we're going to back brush it. You know what, we're going to go all the way up with it. And then we're going to take it and we're going to go right up to that edge that we started at. We're going to add a little bit of pressure and we're going to pull straight down on it. Just going to pull straight down on it. Going to get some more of it. Really going to load that brush up. Going to dab us a line. I'm just going to pull straight back on it. And it's going to hit all the high spots in that lovely texture that we put on there. And we're just going to keep going all the way around. Then we're going to take it, we're going to wipe off all the excess paint of our brush. You know what? Let us kind of go back and forth with it, because it's really going to mix in with that pewter and it's going to give us almost a silver effect. So we're going to do that all the way up in here. You know what? Let's get rid of our dots. I know you're thinking, wow, it looks just like it was when we first started painting it. Well, it's okay, because that's the beautiful thing about abstract art. But But trust me, it'll all make sense by the time we finish, because you're building layers up, and since we're painting with colors that are a little bit transparent, the more layers you add, the more depth you'll actually end up with your painting at the end. But we're going to switch our whites up to a, you know what, let's put in a zinc white, because that's going to really give us the depth we're looking for. Zinc white here. So we're going to load our brush up with it, and then we're going to, because we really want to keep this to where it's almost like we've got a ledge here and it's like there's something right on the other side of it here, so when people look at it they can be like going, what's over there? So that's really just going to do the same effect. We're just going to kind of dab on our zinc white, and we're going to bring that all the way over. We're just gently going to pull back on it, and that's going to, and see, if you notice, see how the zinc white and this Cremenza white are right next to each other? You can kind of see the difference in the color tones in them, which is awesome. So you're going to use your zinc white as your white that's going to go on top of that. And we're not going to pull very far back because we just want to kind of frost the edges with it, which is that right there. Then we're going to wipe our brush, and then we're going to back brush it with our short brush stroke. And you're going to notice that it's almost like it's all disappearing except for some little lines. So we're going to keep our little lines going. There we go. And right here, so it's like right here, it's almost like the wind has kind of died down, so we're going to just gently brush off the harshness of it. But we want to keep this harsh line there, just for now anyway. Now we'll go back with that Cremenza white, then we're just going to add it in right in here. And now you can kind of see the difference between the two whites and how powerful that white is. So then we're just going to gently back brush it. You know what, let's feather out this line here just a little bit here. So and now we're going to step back, we're going to check our movements, make sure our painting's moving in the correct manner we want it to move in. So now we know we want it to come in this way and come around. So right in here is where everything's going to start curving upward. So that's another reason why I want to keep that line there, even though it's subtle. It's going to help the viewer's eye follow that curve all the way around. Alright. What we will do in between this, we're going to go back, since there's a lot of motion here, we're going to come back and just kind of fade that in. So we're just going to fade that in with that pewter that's there. And I am very glad you guys decided to subscribe to my channel and, you know, watch me paint and hopefully teach you some things about painting, or you can just hang out and watch me paint. It's fine, either way. Just glad for the company, you know. And also, maybe, if we're lucky this episode, the studio dog Jasper just might make an appearance. He's been very moody today. He is not happy when I am painting and not paying him any attention. So, I don't know, there's a story in there somewhere. Alright, so we got this done here. You know what, I kind of like this here, this little white thing going on here. So tell you what, let's expand that more. So let's take that lovely Cremenza white again, and then tell you what, we're just barely gonna touch it there. We're gonna kind of just do the highlights, because that's the awesome thing about painting on paintings with texture. You can grab the highlights of the actual texture, and you want to, you know, bring them out in your painting. Don't be afraid to use texture in your paintings. So we're gonna follow. You know what? Let's follow this line all the way down. There we go. Yeah, just like that. And then we're just gently gonna pull it back. Just gently pull it back there. So we're going to use the Cremenza white here. So I'm just going to pull it back out. There we go. Like I said, you can fall in love with painting with whites, and before you know it, your whole entire painting is mostly going to be white, which is okay. So here's a question for everyone that's watching. Please leave this in the comments below. How many of you would actually like to meet Jasper, the studio dog? So you guys want to, I will bring him up an episode and you guys can all say hello to him. So there you go. So leave in the comments below and I will grant your wish. Alright, so now, since I did follow this line all the way down, so we got to be very careful, because if I continue this line down, it's going to break up the visual flow. So I'm going to back brush this just a little bit, just so we still have that flow of going down. Ooh, and you know what? Tell you what, I'm going to add just a small touch of that neutral gray number 8. As you can see, when I say a little bit, it's just going to be barely just a little bit, because we're going to use that right in here to really accent our shadowing here. As you can see, I'm just barely using the edge of the brush, and I'm just literally barely just putting it on there, and I'm kind of going around some of the highlights that I want to really just highlight and make pop out. And so then I'm going to wipe it off my brush, then I'm going to go back and I'm just simply going to use that short brush stroke to kind of go back and forth to not really wipe it off the painting, but it's blending it in to kind of everything. It's just leaving a bare minimum of it behind, just enough to give you the textures and the shadowing and all that stuff that you really want. So, because you're going to go right underneath all that, you're just kind of blending it in. It's kind of adding in all these shadows and everything like that. And you always want to really wipe your brush off, because it's almost like you're dry brushing the paint at this point, but you're mixing it in with the whites and the pewters and all that stuff that's been there before. So you're just kind of going back and forth and really using it to get the shadows and things like that that you really want to put in there. You know what, look at that. And just like that, you've got some textures, you've got some shadows and all that stuff there. So, you know what, I kind of like that. So I'm going to take that and do the same process, kind of like up over in here. And let's see how it turns out, shall we? So, like I said, I'm just using a barely, not that much at all. I mean, you can kind of see where it's just barely enough on the brush. So you kind of want to relax, kind of take a deep breath and just enjoy the moment. You know, just kind of relax a little bit, don't be so tense. And just kind of like, alrighty, so let's see what happens here. So we kind of want to go up in here. Now I kind of put a little bit too much on there, so I'm going to dip my brush in the linseed oil, kind of brush it out a little bit, dip it in linseed oil so it is like wet. Then we're just going to go back, we're just going to, there you go. It's going to take it, you know what, let's go all the way up with it. Because remember, in our first lessons, we actually drew that line, and we used that blue to draw that line with. So it's still there, and we're just going to accent it more. So I've then taken it, wiped my brush clean. So the brush is still wet with the linseed oil, but most of the paint has been removed off of it. So then we're going to go back, and we're just going to up brush it, just kind of go in a little bit. We're going to up brush it here. You know what, let's take it all the way over. Let's take it all the way over here. Add a little bit in here. Because you know what I think we're going to do? We'll take this color and we're going to use it mostly up in here. So that's why we want to add a little bit in here so it kind of has a nice transition. So it all looks like it's part of the same thing. So let's bring it all up in there. Alright, so now I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to brush downward. We want to spread that out. So let's just brush it out. Alright, so now we've got kind of a harsh line going on. So we're just going to take it and we're just going to gently just kind of get rid of that line. We want to keep all of our textures up there. We might actually end up having to go back and put white over this just a little bit. But we don't know yet. So let's kind of go up and above it. And I'm kind of pulling down a little bit. And I really want to just get in there in between that white and kind of like make that white look a little bit more wispy. So then we'll take it. So we know our white's still a little wet, so we're going to get on top of our white and we're just going to pull it down to really mix it in with that, with those grays there. Okay, and so now we've kind of got it going a little bit, and now let's add, so we need to add some more whites on top of that, but you're going to go back to that Cremenza white, because I really do like that white if you haven't noticed. I'm going to load my brush up, and then tell you what, so now we're coming down here, so let's put in some textures right in here. So here's another question for everybody, if you would answer this in the comments below. Are you guys happy with the 30-minute episode time limit, or do you want me just to do hour-long shows? So let me know what you guys want to watch, because I know an hour is a long time to commit to, but it's totally up to you guys. Because the reason I'm asking is because I'm about 7 minutes away from doing the hitting a 30-minute time slot on this episode, and it seems like we just started painting. I know. So as you can see, I'm hitting all the highlights with this Cremenza white, and it's really just blending in really well with this neutral gray here. And so, because if you haven't noticed, I tend to mix all my colors on the canvas, because that's just my personal favorite. Some people like to mix up the colors on their palette and whatever. I personally like to mix everything up on the canvas itself. That's just how I paint. So you can do it either way, but I like mixing all mine up as we go, because that way I feel like, one, I have more control over it, and I'm not stuck with a color that I'm not going to use a lot of. Alright, so got that. So now you know what we're going to do. We're going to go back with our zinc white, and we're going to lay our zinc white on top of all of that, and let's kind of see how that develops. And as always, we want to get our whites nice and wet by mixing with some linseed oil. Alright, so our brush is loaded up. So let's see, where are we here? So let us, you know what, right in here, I think we need to add a little bit of zinc white. Change the temperature of the clouds, and it helps layer them. Because I don't know if you guys ever kind of looked at clouds or whatever. There's a lot of different layers to them, because you've got a lot of different temperatures going on up there. So we're just going to go back and add in this zinc white right on top of that Cremenza. And what you want to do is you kind of want to be random about where you go with it. So we're just very gently. Now if you notice, what I'll do is I'll do that whole dab thing where we put our paint down, but then I'm actually, instead of brushing this way with it, I'm actually going back and kind of back brushing it this way just a little bit. And so, because what that does, it kind of adds in a nice layer where it shows movement and everything. And so, and here's another question for everyone to answer in the comments below. Do you guys like the weekly painting shows, or do you want to do bi-weekly, or you want the video to drop twice a week? Let me know. Leave it in the comments below, and I will be sure to take note and answer all of that. And I'm hoping, if you've watched this far into the series, you've actually subscribed by now. And if you haven't, please subscribe. And I know you guys are getting tired of me saying that, but you know, the more subscribers I get, the more frequent that this will pop up in your notifications that we have a new video to watch and all that fun stuff. And yes, in future episodes I will be getting out of the studio, and we will be going to art shows and talking about different things of that and everything. Alright, so cool. So now we got this, and if you notice, now we've started getting some of our textures, and our layers are starting to appear even just by using different shades of white and different forms of white and all of that. So that's all popping out quite nicely. Okay, so now we kind of got like where it's barely like visible right in here. So I want to make that more visible. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add some flake white to it. Alright, so let's add some flake white to it. So, but just a touch, not much. just a little bit. And like I said, we'll have a whole episode talking about whites and all of that, because there is so many out there and so much to talk about just off whites alone. Alright, so I've got my flake white. I've added it in there. It's nice. So it's going to be nice. It's on our brush. It's pretty heavy. So where were we? Oh yes, we were right in here, weren't we? Alright, so we're just going to go back, do the same thing. Now remember, our flake white's going to be almost transparent. So, but the good thing is, since we're adding it just in like this right here, it's going to be transparent, yes, but it will still be visible. So I'm just going to kind of keep coming right along with that. You can kind of see, I mean, it really is almost transparent, as thin as I have it laid down, which is fine because that is going to be a base layer of other whites that are going to go on top of it. And what's really good, so yeah, we're just going to add it in there, and we're just going to kind of randomly go out and put it places, and you'll see. So if you notice, we kind of started with this flake white line here. You know what? Kind of want to continue it on over. So like this cloud here kind of broke it up. But you know what? Let's put it over here and all of that. And so yep. There we go. Maybe that's where it originated from. We don't know. Because you got to remember, the awesome thing about painting with clouds is that they're actual, it's nature. So it's always in motion. Always in motion. And so, well guys, tell you what, that is the 30-minute alarm bell that just went off. So we have reached the end of another episode. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me in on this episode. And next episode, we're going to talk about more of clouds and movement and all of that fun stuff. And always, I know you're getting tired of me saying this because I'm getting tired of saying this. So hit the subscribe button and I won't have to say it anymore. So tell you what, thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. Much love, and always enjoy painting. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.